Welcome to Sales Training for Podcasters, the podcast designed to better your sales process. We'll be sharing tools, tips, and techniques, whether you love sales or hate sales. If you've got a product or service to sell and a podcast, you've come to the right place. Now, here's your hosts, podcast strategists, Doug Sandler and JJ Flizanes.
Welcome, everyone, to Sales Training for Podcasters. I'm JJ Flizanes.
Hey, and I'm Doug Sandler.
And today we have a really special treat for you. I started my show in 2014, kind of by myself. I didn't really know what I was doing. I hired someone who didn't have a podcast to help me, go figure. And so that didn't go very well. And when I figured out that I needed extra help, I heard about Entrepreneur on Fire with Lee Dumas. I got involved. I joined his podcast Paradise, and I relaunched my show in 2015 better than I had started. So today we have on Lee Dumas. Doug, what's your relationship with JLD?
So I can remember when I first started podcasting in 2015, just hearing this name, Lee Dumas. And I think at the time he was sharing and I think he still, and I know he still does because we just checked, but he has all of his financials on his computer, on his website. So I started to look at the stats, and I was amazed. He was doing something like $60,000 to $75,000 every month in income. And that was back in, 2015 when I was looking. He's doing close to $200,000 every month in sales, and the variety of selling that he does is really, really interesting too. So my relationship with him is just from a distance, just kind of looking at how his podcasting journey has gone, and always looked at him at a distance, from a distance. And then I had him on my show, The Nice Guys on Business, and some other podcasting guys like Pat Flynn, and he's just amazing. I mean, he is consistency is his strong suit, I would say. Relationship building, he's definitely good with that. He's done many interviews. I think, did he say 3,000 interviews?
Yeah, he's had 3,000 interviews. And actually, I'm going to correct you on those numbers. Back in 2015, he was doing six digits. He was doing over 100,000, sometimes 200,000 and more a month in income. I just looked at his reports back then, and he was doing 30 to 60,000 a month in sponsor revenue.
Oh, maybe
now,
that's what I was
now he has switched that, and we talk about that on this episode today, because back then he was selling more of his programs and his products, if you will, and less in sponsorship. And now they've done a swap. So we talk about that on today's episode. But let me just introduce him. Lee Dumas is the founder and host of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire. With over 1 million monthly listeners and 7 figures of annual revenue, JLD is spreading entrepreneurial fire on a global scale. His first traditionally published book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, is available for pre-order now at uncommonsuccessbook.com. And you get a bunch of bonuses that you do not want to miss, because they are awesome, and they are things that he's been selling and people have been having amazing success with. They're his journals, and you get 3 of them shipped to your door only until the book launches. So the book officially launches on March 23rd, which means March 22nd, 2021 is your last opportunity to get the bonuses included with this book, because once it goes live and it's in the stores, no more bonuses.
I was so excited to have him on the show again, and just listening to him this go round, as opposed to when I had him on the show back in, I don't even remember the year. It was probably 600 or 700 or 800 episodes ago on The Nice Guys on Business. Not a lot has changed. He's still a really a very positive, very optimistic guy. He's got a lot of energy, and again, consistency, I think, has been his strong suit. He comes through this episode very similar to how he did his Nice Guys on Business episode a while ago. So very cool, just chance to view into his bubble of success.
So whether you're hearing this on Sales Training for Podcasters or Turnkey Podcast or Nice Guys on Business, or where else are we putting this?
Everywhere. We're just going to shout it out from the rooftops.
Right. No matter where you're hearing this, there's value to John's story and to the conversation that we have, because regardless of where you're listening to this, the goal is that you're probably podcasting or listening to a podcast or wanting to start a podcast because you actually want to make money from it, which he's done better than most, especially those coming in without having a background, like some of the more famous people that you know, like Joe Rogan or whatever. But Joe Rogan had an audience before he started a show. And I'm not going to say that's necessarily easier, But you do start out with the chips all on one side, that you're bringing an audience to the podcast, versus JLD wasn't known until he started his podcast and then quickly became super successful. So we appreciate having him on the show today. Please check out uncommonsuccessbook.com. We've got ours, we're getting our bonuses, and we want you to do the same. So any last words, Doug Sandler?
No, let's get to the interview. Excited to hear it again.
Hey, everybody, just a quick heads up. When Doug and I recorded the show with JLD, we wanted to do it on video also. So we were sharing his microphone, which is why we sound like we're a million miles away. So apologize for the not amazing audio quality that you're used to from us, but we do have it on video. Come on over to jjflizanes.tv to check out the video with JLD. Enjoy the episode.
Booyah.
What's
Hey,
going
John.
on, John?
What's up, you two? Lovely to be here.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone to Sales Training for Podcasters. I'm JJ Flizanes.
Hey, and I'm Doug Sandler.
And we probably have one of the most famous podcasters with us today, John Lee Dumas. John, welcome to the show.
You know, I'm fired up to be here. Let's ignite.
I think I had John on the Nice Guys on Business, probably going back almost 900 episodes ago. He's got the same beard, so he's looking good.
It's a little scruffy, you know. In Puerto Rico, life is good. Live the island life. Shave once a week, max.
Love it. Love it. So we, of course, thought of you for Sales Training for Podcasters because, again, your podcasting career, which is unprecedented, I think, when it comes to the regular entrepreneur. And I had some questions. I know you have a book launch coming out, but I want to ask you to share with us I remember that your story is you were in real estate sales after the service. Was it, and it was like corporate or commercial real estate? Am I right there?
All of the above. I mean, I had such a messy post-military career. I mean, I tried law school for a semester, dropped out, went into corporate finance, quit after a year, tried a tech startup, went into commercial real estate, residential real estate, you name it. I tried it. I failed.
Did you have sales training before you started your podcast? Like
Zero. Zilch. Before I started my kind of like quote unquote journey of being a human being, like post college and military. In corporate finance, we did get some sales training. It was for a very specific financial product. But sales training, I guess at the end of the day is sales training. So there was some training there.
What was your relationship to sales? We started the show because I'm not sure if you know who Doug's dad was, Sandler Sales Training, very famous sales training. And Doug's kind of grown up in the sales environment. So that word isn't dirty to him at all. That word is like cool. It's good. And for me, I kind of represent for the people who hate selling, who feel weird, have that relationship with money, asking for something. And we see a lot of podcasters making no money because they're afraid to ask for the sale or they don't know how to position it. And they don't feel good about it. Mm-hmm. So what was your feeling? What was your relationship to selling when you started your show?
I always love selling. I always resonated with the phrase, like you eat what you kill. Like to me, I just resonated with that. Like I got it, coming from like a military background and not to mention just kind of like an entrepreneurial family as well. So I really personally always resonated with that. I always loved the opportunity, which is why I kind of went after sales jobs personally, which was corporate finance and real estate. You need to be selling. And I went after those because I really enjoyed that mentality. Like I liked that opportunity of, really going big or going home. Like you're going big. I mean, you're really bringing down the big bucks or you're going home empty handed. I could take that one, or the other, where some people, they just kind of need that, like, steady monthly paycheck and just barely scraping by. Some people just prefer living in that area. Not me.
So you mentioned, John, that you had a family of entrepreneurs. So I'm really curious just about, your relationship with dollars and cents. Did you ever have any conversations like with your parents just about money? Was money just an easy word for you to kind of have a communication with your parents?
It was very easy. And I do attribute that to my parents because they were super transparent. Like my dad would like always show me like his bank accounts and like how much money he made or lost in the stock market that month, or like how much money he made each year. And he also, like, by the way, showed me like how much money he was paying in taxes each year, which so right away I was like, whoa, like taxes are brutal. Like most people don't learn about taxes till it's like, almost too late, where they're like settled somewhere, then they make a lot of money and they're like, oh dear, like I didn't know this existed. I always knew that was a huge thing, which is probably unsurprisingly why I ended up in Puerto Rico, which is a tax heaven.
Yeah, we heard. I think, didn't you say that you save $1 million a year by being in Puerto
7 figures plus every year that I've been here? I've been here 5 years now. And that's like, in the pockets, 7 figures per year. So to me, it was just like an absolute no-brainer to get to keep the money that I make living down here in a Caribbean paradise. Life is good.
So I have a question. If you go back to those early days and you talk to the podcasters that are also in their early days, what advice would you give them when it comes to just sharing their products and services with a community that they're building through their podcast?
If you do the following, you'll win. If you create the best solution to a real problem, you'll win. Because if you do that, you're going to be excited. You're going to be proud. You're going to be loud about this best solution to a real problem. You're going to want to share. You're going to feel the obligation, which you do have an obligation to give people the best solution to a real problem. The struggle I see a lot of people is they make the second best solution or the 74th best solution to a real problem. And of course, you're going to be a little about that because there's a better solution out there. So don't play in that game. Define in your minds what is the best solution that you can create for a real problem. Make it the best in the industry. And then you're going to want to scream it from the rooftops. Like, it's really that simple. Like, anytime people really kind of hesitate and feel kind of icky or slimy, which is, by the way, I've been there before, is when they're selling something they don't really believe in. Like when I was selling for John Hancock, a financial product that, I didn't hate, but I didn't love. It was somewhere in the middle. It made it much more difficult than if I was in love with this product that I was selling. So you got to find that thing that you love.
And obviously podcasting for you became it.
So it.
Yeah. And so you, besides the fact that, so for those of you that don't know, John and EO Fire, obviously Entrepreneur on Fire, make sure to check him out. I'm part of Podcast Paradise, have been since 2015. And one of the things that is unique to John is that he posts and does an episode about their monthly financials. Like, they lay it out on the table. I think January of this year was like $198,000. And what I think has changed, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug took a quick look and saw that now there's like a lot more sponsorship dollars. I remember back in 2015, 2016, that your numbers were around 60,000 in sponsorship. And the bulk of the money was coming through your programs that you would be selling every week on a webinar. Tell us just a little bit about that change in what you're selling, how you're selling, the evolution of that from then till now.
Everything evolves, and you have to be willing to evolve as well. So over the years, I identified what was working back in 2013 when we launched Podcasters Paradise. And I was like, oh, wow. All of our sales are coming on live webinars, and we're not actually making a ton of sales when we don't have live webinars. Let's do live webinars. So every week for over 3 years, every week I did a live webinar. And we made bank every single time we did a live webinar. But over time, they just, webinars kind of just became a little less effective, Until frankly, we just looked at the numbers and they just weren't worth our time. We were actually able to sell into Podcasters Paradise almost as much just doing evergreen ongoing webinars than we were doing the actual live webinars themselves. And of course, we're able to take back a lot of time, energy, and bandwidth by not doing a weekly live webinar. So we did the shift, and we decreased, the quantity of the shows, of the webinars, and we focused on other parts of our business. And one of those was growing the podcast audience. When you grow your podcast audience, you get more sponsorship dollars because your now audience is larger. And so that part of our business rose up in response to our now more detailed and direct focus on that very thing. So that's my biggest, piece of advice in this area is, hey, you got to look at your numbers. Whether you're going to publish an income report or have a private income report, you need to know what's selling, what's working, where your revenue streams are, and what's happening. Is the numbers going up and to the right or down and to the right? Because if it's down and to the right, identify why it's not working, maybe make some fixes, and then you can come back stronger. Or maybe you're saying, well, it's time. The sun is setting on this opportunity. Let's move in a different direction now. And we've done that many, many times over the years.
JJ and I talk a lot about staying in your zone of genius, the stuff that you really excel at and you really love at. And it's kind of like your gift that you have been given that comes so easily to you, but other people have a challenge if they try to duplicate that. What do you feel like your gift is when it comes to podcasting? If you put it within the podcasting space, what's your gift within the space?
Well, number one, I call it my zone of fire because I like to stay on brand. So my zone of fire, it's doing just this. This is what my virtual assistant could not do. I could not have sent JM, my virtual assistant of 12 years, in my place to do this conversation. She is right now doing amazing work behind the scenes, running my business, reaching out to people. She has her whole thing that she's doing. This is my zone of fire, being interviewed on other podcasts, interviewing people on my podcast, doing different live trainings and tutorials and X and Y and Z, sharing the 3,000 interviews that I've done with other people. And the wisdom, by the way, that came from those 3,000 interviews. That's why I finally wrote a book after 10 years. And that's why I'm now sharing this book with people, because this is not my mind, my brain, my genius, my zone of fire. It's me being a mentee to over 3,000 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs over the past 10 years and seeing the culmination of that and boiling down the fundamental principles and foundational elements that we all share. And by we, I mean successful entrepreneurs share, and putting it into what has turned out to be a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. So that's my zone of fire, is having the conversations, learning from them, helping my audience, Fire Nation, hear these value bombs and absorb them. Just like I'm trying to drop some value bombs onto your audience here today. This is where I spend my time.
So let's talk about the common path to uncommon success. We've purchased our pre-launch books. So tell us more about the book and about when it's coming out and how people can get it. And I know you got some bonuses that you're offering right now, I think, for people who buy the pre-orders.
Well, thank you. I mean, listen, this is a culmination, as I mentioned, of the 3,000 interviews that I've done. And I've taken all of the lessons learned and I boiled it down to those 17 principles. I put them in a chronological order. And I said, this is a step-by-step, fundamental, foundational roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. Now that I got the 17 steps, let's write a book. And it was 17 chapters, step 1 to step 17, and 71,000 words later. That's 273 pages of straight value bombs that, again, not all from here, not even most from here, not even a little bit from here, all from what I've learned over the years into this book. That's the culmination. That's the process. That's what this book is to get people step by step to their version of uncommon success. And so pre-orders are everything. So we have 5 insane, awesome bonuses. Just one of the 5 bonuses, by the way, for people that pre-order, I'm shipping all 3 of my journals, the Freedom, Mastery, and Podcast Journal, to your door if you're in the US. I'm literally shipping $150 worth of journals to your doorstep for free on me with one single pre-order. There's 4 other insane bonuses. All the details are at uncommonsuccessbook.com. We have endorsements from Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Neil Patel, Dory Clark, Erica Mandy. I have a video about the book. The first chapter is there as well. All 5 bonuses listed out. uncommonsuccessbook.com. Those bonuses, by the way, they disappear the day the book launches. So pre-order your copy like these 2 geniuses, get all the bonuses plus the book when it comes out. And I'm really excited about it.
Hey, just curious, John. So a part of any journey that a podcaster will take are examining all the analytics, download numbers and countries and, all that stuff. And I know that stuff is important. And I do, as I coach other people in podcasting, also, I talk about the importance of those numbers, but I don't talk about those numbers in terms of being better than things like building relationships with people. And I know you've had, 3,000, like you said, 3,000 interviews. Tell me about the importance of the relationships when it comes to helping you get where your financial goals are going too, the relationships in your life as a podcaster.
When I look back at 2012, I looked around and I saw that I was the average of the 5 people I spent the most time with. And for lack of a better word, my 5 kind of sucked. I mean, they weren't bad people. They just weren't that motivated at life. They weren't that inspired. They weren't striving for more. And that's sad. And I wanted to improve my 5. And so I said, how can I start to surround myself with people who actually inspire me. So of course I read the books, which is a huge way to, like, when you are like reading this book, like you're being surrounded by John Lee Dumas, by the other 3,000 people that I've interviewed that have dropped value bombs in this book. You're being surrounded by them. So a book's a great way, an audiobook, et cetera. But I also, started listening to podcasts, and I was like, wait, what if I actually was able to have a podcast where I would be talking to these individuals like Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tim Ferriss, and like having these conversations, like really live time surrounding myself with these people. And man, my 5 went up so fast when I started interviewing these individuals, because your network is your net worth, and all ships are rising in a high tide. So when I was surrounding myself with this high tide, I was just rising, even if I didn't want to. And of course I wanted to, but even if I didn't want to, man, I was going up, up, up and at them. So that was the biggest thing about podcasting, was allowing myself to be surrounded by the right people, inspiring people, learning from them, being motivated and inspired by them, having, a lot of them hold me accountable when they became friends, and people that were in my mastermind later in time. And it's just been that journey going forward. And that's, just one of the amazing things that podcasting can do for you.
So just to make sure we all are clear where they're going and when this special ends, it's
uncommonsuccessbook.com.
Uncommon Success Book. We just went to everyone. Okay. uncommonsuccessbook.com. And when do the special bonuses end?
March 23rd is the day the book goes live, and the bonuses disappear that day as well. So you want to pre-order the book, get all 5 bonuses, uncommonsuccessbook.com.
All right, everybody. The link will be in the show notes. Make sure to get your book and your bonuses right now, because you only have 2 weeks left, or 3 weeks at this point. So get the book, and you're going to get a lot of great things from John. And if you're not already someone who listens to his show, eofire.com, to check out his podcast. So,
thanks, JLD, man. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, you too. JJ, Doug. Adios.
Thanks for listening to Sales Training for Podcasters. To get additional information and to access more amazing content that will boost your sales game, visit salestrainingforpodcasters.com. Hey, do us a favor. Rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thanks for listening.